myself a captain. So I am a leader of a company called R.E.P.R.E.S.E.N.T. But I don't call myself a captain because I think that I am at the top of the top. It's more about inspiration, about taking control. So everything that I do, and I support accountants and bookkeepers, but everything that I do is about taking control of your life, your business, your well-being.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your time zone and where you're joining us from in the world, or if you're watching on demand. My name is James Sundon, co-founder and chief evangelist of R.E.P.R.E.S.E.N.T. I'm here today to cover off how to get away with being yourself. Most importantly, I'm joined by the wonderful Captain Kelli Doorne-Millott. Captain Kelli, what's going on?
Hiya! That's my best northern voice there, as being a southerner. Hiya! Hey up!
That was northern.
Is it bad?
We've gone straight to the north-south divide already. Marv.
You're welcome.
What is that? That was like 5 seconds in. Like you're gonna be like discriminated against gravy next, like
Well,
did.
this is about how to get away with being yourself, and I am a southerner, so I figure I'd just make that point straight off the bat.
I mean, there's somewhere I could potentially go with that, but the historical memory of discrimination against gravy on pancakes around Shrove Tuesday it's something. I'll be honest with you, this is probably a therapy session for me. It's something I've just not got over,
Well, that has made me slightly uncomfortable with sweaty palms. I mean, no, just let's not go there.
Okay. That was almost like an Eminem lyric coming out. Moving swiftly on, let's get straight into this, right? We usually keep our sessions around 30 minutes. People can watch us via our YouTube channel, various different things on social media. But I think this session, Kelli, and when you came up with the idea, I'd love to take credit for it like I do everything else in life, but I really can't. This one is especially close to my heart. I mean, I have been through a huge transformation in being myself and becoming myself to the position I am now as a co-founder of a rapidly growing global organization. And it wouldn't have been possible had I have not had help and support along the way in order to be myself, right? You do some incredible work. Can you take us through who you are and what you do for people not lucky enough to know about that yet?
Oh, shucks. Yeah, so what am I? Who am I? So I call myself a captain. So I am a leader of a company called R.E.P.R.E.S.E.N.T. But I don't call myself a captain because I think that I am at the top of the top. It's more about inspiration, about taking control. So everything that I do, and I support accountants and bookkeepers, but everything that I do is about taking control of your life, your business, your well-being. It's about agency and connection to yourself. And it started off actually by me having a marketing company. Like I just wanted to help other people get business, and it was just a marketing company. But the more I got into it, the more I spoke to people, the more that I was working with people on an individual level, I realized that it's not about marketing. Like the structure of marketing strategy, that works. What doesn't work is your application to it. So there is something within people that stops things working. So that's what I do now. That's what I focus on, helping people become the captain of their life.
I love that. I love what you've done there, and I love the party on a boat as much as the next person. So hey, like, you know where I am.
Yeah, you might get an invite to another one.
If you want a vertically endowed northerner to carry lots of boxes, I mean, presumably people have soft beverages or alcoholic beverages on this boat. And listen,
Prosecco and no secco are both available.
You had me at no secco. Absolutely love it. Talk me through, because when I put this together, the write-up, me, myself, and GPT, right? I put this together, and the idea was, and the thought process, is I have announced to my audience, our audience at R.E.P.R.E.S.E.N.T, that you're a baller of being yourself. My words, but take me if you want, right?
Hilarious.
Um, I know you're a baller, but other people might not necessarily know that. So
Mm.
I guess, what does it take to be yourself and genuinely, authentically be yourself every single day, Kelly?
Yeah, so it's hard work, isn't it? That's the first thing I need to point out, that having a mirror shoved in front of your face and being able to say, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is what I like about myself, this is what I don't like about myself, this is how I'm of value to the world. It's all incredibly icky. Like
Mm,
it's hard. It's not easy. I've looked in front of the mirror or looked at the mirror, and a coach got me to do this. And I'm only going back a year. And they
mm,
said, "What do you see?" And I burst into tears. I see guilt and shame, and it was not a nice place to be.
mm,
That was what was reflecting back at me. And by looking a little deeper and going into into yourself, you start to recognize that actually parts of you that you feel are broken can be
mm,
used for benefit and good.
mm,
Like I've got some notes here about what I used to get told as a youngster.
mm,
I am too soppy. I don't wear the right clothes. I don't listen to the right music. I don't have the right hair. I'm too talkative. I've got expensive taste. I'm too messy. I'm always late. I'm lazy and dramatic.
mm,
I mean, that's a pretty crappy list of things to carry around
mm,
constantly forever.
mm,
So I've done a lot of work on switching it. I've got high empathy. I'm creative, accepting, risk-taking, passionate. I enjoy nice things. I'm engrossed in what I'm doing. I'm committed, curious, and emotional. And all of these things, just on the flip side, are extremely positive. So when you
mm,
start to break stuff down like that, you start to realize your value to the world. And that's
mm.
that's what I want. That's the message I want to convey.
That's phenomenal.
Mm.
You read out a list there when you started off, and I was like, yeah, majority of those things are the reason why you're a really good friend. Like genuinely, like you might look at those, and of course, like not in any way, shape, or form taken away from how you from a young age would have internalized those, and actually how that would have led, until I know you mentioned recently, and the progressive attitude that we both share,
Mm.
that will have impacted you in a particular way. But it's really strange to think that any word can be looked at as a negative or a positive, right?
Yeah,
It depends on your outlook and your mindset when viewing that word and applying that across a person.
yeah,
Um, the journey that you're on, I know from knowing you, Kelly, that this journey doesn't end. It's a continual improvement. But I think so many people struggle to start. They don't know where.
yeah,
There is an anxiety about being yourself, about posting on social media, right? You see
yeah.
all of these accounts, it's incredibly influential, very well known, picking up business from social media left, right, and center. But I've heard a statistic, and whether it's true or not, I can't really tell you, but I'll say it with enough conviction, so it seems like it's logical. Apparently, quote unquote, I've heard from another source, 75% of all accountants are actually introverts, right?
Right.
And if you're an introvert, whether it's 75% or not, is I'm sure somebody will troll me about on LinkedIn. It's fine.
Mm.
But whether it's 75% or not, actually expressing yourself, being who you genuinely are in a world where you have to conform and fit in, like how do you even start with something like that?
So it's that's I'm not sure the question's right for my
Okay.
brain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reword my question, please. Like genuinely pretend I'm not even here. It's the best thing
So
to do.
the difference between an introvert and an extrovert is
Mm,
where you get your energy from. Okay. It isn't anything to do with bravery or
mm,
creativity or
mm,
anything like that. It's
mm,
about how do you recoup your energy. So an
mm,
extrovert will feel really low energy when they're sitting in on their own. And when they go out into an environment where there are people, they absorb all of this energy. Yeah.
mm,
An introvert goes out and their energy depletes while they're out, and they come home and they re-energize on their own under a blanket with a
mm,
like ice cream or whatever and a book.
mm,
That's the difference between an introvert and an extrovert. whether that's accountants or not, is almost irrelevant to being yourself, because being yourself is so much more. Like, being yourself is liking gardening, you know, or as I was explaining to you before, taking your 20-year-old son out to the amnesia opening party and partying until the sun comes up. That is whoever yourself is. So to get to who you are, first of all, you've got to admit that you are hiding, because we all do it, because it's safe and it's nice and it's warm. If you could just hide behind something or somebody. So first admit that you're doing it, and then figuring out, just figuring out what it is you like in life. Now, I've done almost every type of profiling under the sun because I felt like I was missing something. There was a piece of my life that I didn't have a grasp on, and I was constantly trying to figure out. So I've done 16 profiles, disc profiling. I've done like Roger Hamilton's one, I can't remember what it's called, but I've done all of these different profilings, just trying to figure out who I was. But actually it's more basic than that. It's what brings joy to my life. That's who I am. That's all I am. Me. That's it. So to go back to your question about where do you start, you just have to start with the basics. What do I get pleasure from? Who do I love? What do I like to see? You know? And if you can answer those questions, you can grow on it. When you post on social media, like posting about gardening is going to attract other people who value that too. They don't have to know everything about hydrangeas to value gardening. It's like, you've got a pretty garden. My gran had a pretty garden, and now there is synergy, you know? So it's not necessarily direct. It's just about being, not hiding.
I love that. I'm smiling incessantly at the camera because it's so it's such a wonderful feeling to hear somebody else say that, and somebody who quite clearly I've got an awful lot of time for. Right, I think I'm not your average horticulturist. I get told to do the garden off my now wife. You had me at amnesia there, and yeah, that's absolutely relatable. Probably not to that many within the industry that we both work in, but I get it. So it's around being yourself, being genuine, authentic, finding out what you love, what you want to do and how you want to do it, and building on that, right? And sharing on that.
And not feeling ashamed of it. So I had a conversation with Brad Burton, funnily enough, your mate Brad.
Oh yeah, my Brad.
Your Brad. And we were talking about how I felt quite ashamed of liking rave music. Like it was shame. I felt, oh my God, I like rave music, and like historically people who like rave music like really into drugs, and oh my God, I couldn't, like, everyone's going to think this of me, it's going to be horrendous, and I couldn't do, like, there was so much pressure in my head because I liked music. And through talking to Brad, what I realized is I just like music. Like, I don't have to classify myself as this oik that I think other people are thinking of me. Just like music. Like, I'll listen to Bob Dylan, and I'll listen to rave music, and I'll listen to The Who, and I will listen to Pink Floyd, and I mean, you know, I would listen to all of the musics. So why can't that just be me? Why can't I just talk about that? You know, I'm not, so it's a different way of looking at it.
Yeah, I think, listen, I've been wrong before, I'll be wrong again. I believe we connected through a love of music. And it might have been like a Skrillex song, something else I incorporated into a social post, and then you were like, that's banging, I like that. And then it was just, it kind of grew naturally from there, right? But it's a love of what we enjoy that really brought us together.
I want to just point something out. Your post wasn't about the music. But what you managed to do, and this is why understanding yourself is so important, what you managed to do was get your personality into a post. So somebody, me, had something to go, I like that. That piece resonates with me. So I've read your words. That was a very good, I can't remember what the post was, but that little thing there, that really hit the spot. And that just gives you connection. It's all about
Mm,
connection.
mm. Speaking of connection and connecting yourself to something, I think we've very quickly we've skirted over or touched on what people need to do to start off. We've
Mm,
touched on a little bit of your backstory around that. I think it'd be great to understand, Kelly, considering you've been doing this for a while and you've had outstanding success with the clients that you work with. It'd be great to understand a little bit around what has been the real world situation from the client that you've started to work with and
mm,
actually the output as to what they've been able to achieve with that support. Of course, we're not expecting you to name any clients as part of this, and I'm sure you wouldn't do anyway. But it'd be great to understand like the journey that people can go from and to, and the reason why it's worth putting that effort in to
mm.
identify who they are and what they want.
Yeah. So one of the things that I am very keen on is growing a business, especially because the people that I work with typically do the work themselves as well. So
Mm,
they do the work for the clients, whether it's a small team or not, they're very heavily involved with them. So
mm,
one thing I'm very keen on is for the people that they work with to be people that they like.
yeah.
I mean, doesn't sound like rocket science, but like it's so often overlooked, and then they create a business um of people. They have a client base of people that they just don't gel with, and they wonder why the communication's bad. And
Mm,
so I like people working in harmony.
mm,
I like balance. I like harmony. Knowing yourself and knowing what you like and dislike is the very start of recognizing that in others,
mm,
because you need to understand how you complement others.
mm,
You need to understand how they might not respond to you in the way that you feel like you should be responded to, because everyone's got a
mm,
slightly different language.
mm,
So if you have a particular way of doing things, if you're very timely, I mean, this is not me. If you're very timely, and you like super organized, and you've got attention, like massive attention to detail, and you're a bit of a stickler for grammar and spelling and all of that, well, you can beat somebody up like me, not physically, obviously, but you can say, you're doing it wrong, and you can beat them up for it.
mm,
Or you can say, you don't have that skill, and I do. So why don't I help you with that?
mm,
Yeah. So when you start recognizing yourself and your strengths, you can either not work with the people that don't have those, or help the people that don't have those.
mm.
So that's
That,
what I
that
have.
that's huge because that filters through into who you are, how you work with your
Yeah.
team, how you work with your clients,
Yeah.
whether you are going to just select a group of people to work with or to provide service to
Mm.
that are the same as you, or whether you're going to choose to reflect on pros or cons, weaknesses or strengths, or actually the variations between you, your team, and your clients, and actually
Mm.
how you can get to the desired outcome in working together, right?
Mhm.
So that's key. What
Yeah.
you've just mentioned there is key to so much.
But it's the basics of marketing.
Mm,
So, and this is why it's kind of evolved from a marketing platform. Knowing your audience is the key to everything when it comes to marketing, your positioning, your content, like your marketing messages, everything is the
mm,
key. If you don't know
mm,
your audience, it's going to be a sporadic spray at the wall. Here's what I think I should be posting about today. Yeah.
mm.
But before you can get to know your audience, you kind of need to understand yourself so you can see where your value is to that audience.
That's deep. That's really good. So that's from 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 a co-founder of a brand that out of nowhere is just shot up and is on the words or mouths of majority of those who are on social media,
Mm.
having people from the likes of Zero, pretty senior in Zero, come up to me recently and say, "You're everywhere. Well done." Like
Yes.
every time I go into a meeting, a conversation, I look on LinkedIn, I go to an event, you're everywhere. Like whatever you're doing is cool. Like keep doing it. And you know, like for somebody
That's a
pretty senior
compliment.
in
It's
life,
massive.
yeah, that is
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
You
But
probably
it
couldn't
does
do that.
come. Hmm?
You probably couldn't do that if you weren't assured in yourself and who you are.
Mm.
You
I,
couldn't do it.
I think the biggest change for me was a book, and it was a book that I had to read 8 times over probably about 5 years before it really sank in. And it's a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Oh yeah, Mark Manson.
It certainly is, yeah. I just swore. Oh well, it's my podcast.
And
Feel
we're
free.
poets, so fine.
Yeah. Ah. Um, I more quoted the 80s band there as opposed to what a pirate would say, but we got there anyway. But no, it was really interesting to stop caring what other people thought and be
Yeah.
genuine and authentic and without need to want or change that, right? I think
Mm.
that inward part, Kelly, is really important. I know we discussed this before, but that inward part and how you self-reflect, how you diarize, how you give yourself a message for the future is
Mm.
really, really important. I know you heard reference when we first spoke about this several weeks ago, a poem that you'd put together. And if appropriate, if suitable, if you're cool with it, and only if you're cool with it, it'd be
Mm.
great to understand a little bit around that.
Yeah, so this actually makes me feel a little bit sick. But I figure like fear is to be overcome, right?
Mm,
So as I said earlier, I am too soppy and I am too emotional. And I want to put that into context. I
mm,
was too soppy and I was too emotional for the people who were telling me.
mm,
Yeah, that's all. That's all that means. So I'm going to try and compartmentalize that. That I was too soppy for their emotional state at that time. I'm
mm,
not too soppy. I'm soppy enough because I am me.
mhm,
Yeah. So with that, a short while ago, and I do mean a short while ago, I wrote this poem. I was actually on a walk and I just started speaking it into my phone. So here it is.
The floor is yours.
Oh God, it makes me feel a bit funny. So it's called Hiding in a Tree. I found her on a walk. She was hiding in the trees. I could feel her presence. I didn't know that she was me. She was playing peekaboo, a silly little game. She was hiding in the trees because she thought she was to blame. Her timid little face popped up. Her eyes were full of hope. Could this be the start of my ability to cope? She had always done her best, but was lost in facts and figures. She had no peace or rest, and she cried into the mirrors. There are 2 steps to enlightenment, excuse me, that scare at every stage. They are letting people down and the other side of change. She wasn't sure of who she was or what shift was required. She only knew that life like this was not what she desired. So bit by bit, she showed her face and bit by bit she braved, walking out into the wild and searching for what she craved. Her soul was trapped in parts, in little boxes, so to speak. Her journey of enlightenment was going to be unique. For in her realization that she was actually not broken, but made up of uniqueness that is wanted but unspoken, for all the things she hated about herself before started falling off like leaves upon an autumn floor. Not only has she shed her sins, she started to accept that life today is best when she is not who they expect. So that's
How did that feel? How did that feel?
oh, well, yeah, it feels a bit weird to verbalize it. Like I put it in a group, but that's the first time it's been verbalized. So yeah, it's a bit weird.
That's phenomenal. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I think life is a journey, right? And
Mm,
I think life is a journey, not a destination, is a very key piece of information. So we have to remember that who we are today
mm,
is not who we're going to be tomorrow, is not who we're going to be in 2 years' time, and that
mm,
change is a part of life. People
mm,
seem to get stuck with expectation. So it's everybody else around them that's like, you should be like this because that is who I've come to expect you to be. So they get stuck. And you're like, well, actually, I feel like I need to shed that now. I need to grow. I need to change in order to change my life, to hit the financial goals that I want to hit, to be braver at marketing, to like help my daughter drive. I don't know, like there is all kinds of change that happens in your life. But other people's expectations sometimes weigh you down, and it's okay to shed that. And that's the essence of that poem, is like, it's okay for change.
Do you know what it is? I speak professionally for a living, Kelly, and I'm genuinely speechless. That was moving for so many reasons. Some reasons I probably wouldn't go into on a live webinar, or recording available on our YouTube channel. But I know, I thought shameless plug. Anto will appreciate that. I know she will. But that my only regret is that hasn't resonated with an audience large enough that I would like, because that provides so much value and is so relatable to so many.
Yeah.
There's one person in particular, I won't say who it is, but whose messaging, who has messages and communicated with me about what I can only think is a fear of being herself, and a fear, probably, actually, let me correct myself on that, probably a fear of what she's got to say other people won't appreciate, wouldn't be relatable, wouldn't gain value from it. What would you say to that person?
I think everybody's got fears around that. Like, what if people don't like me? It's like, you know, like, or the post that you did the other day, just slightly deviating, but the post you did the other day about being yourself and the statistics that you have reached on your LinkedIn, which are, like, to some people are going to be phenomenal, by the way. They're higher than mine. Like, there is no doubt that what you're doing is phenomenal, but there is a fear that they are going to be themselves and it's not going to be good enough. It's not going to be like, you can be yourself and you can skyrocket, and you can be yourself and you can fall flat on your face. And that's awful, isn't it? It's part of life. It's normal, but it's awful. And you feel like you've given everything you've got and you're not getting anywhere. And sometimes it's just not, that's not your time. That's not your path. That's not like, sometimes it's just a small change in your life, or no change, and just to keep plowing forward. It really does depend on who you are and what who you are, where you are in your journey, as to what needs to happen. And it's so personal. It's so personal. So I don't like blanket advice, like just go out there and be yourself and everything's going to be fine, because that's bollocks. Sorry, but it's not right.
Okay.
It's not right. You need to take your steps, be there small steps, giant steps. They need to be your steps about stretching your comfort zones. So if you're worried, if this person in your inbox is worried about being themselves, first of all, they need to check in and work out who they are. And then they just need to start playing around. Like, whatever feels safe to them in that moment, just stretch it a little bit and stretch it a little bit more. That's what they need to do.
I love that. Thank you. And that might have been similar to the advice that I gave. Just do it. Come on, just do it, right? But that shows our different personality styles. I'm like, come on, rip it off like a band-aid. Come on, do it. You do a live stream, like, you'd be cool, awesome, great, go.
Some people need a kick up the butt, but they're already like the JFDI. You know that one? Just do it. Yeah. The people that respond to that message are already 90% there. They just need tipping over. The people who panic when that sends the fear of God into them, they're 30% there. And that advice is useless to them. Not just useless, but restrictive and overwhelmed. Like, it's not the right advice. So when I work with clients, and you're going back to when you asked about the different client breakthroughs, I really do my level best to work out where they are emotionally, energetically, like logically within their business before we make changes. Like that's really important to me.
I love that. A lot of people recently use, or I've seen a lot of people would use the analogy of putting a band-aid over a crack to stop the water coming out. There was one from another James Ashford, with fixing his gate. Yeah, people know James. But about fixing his gate, and actually it wasn't the wood that needed planing or sanding or chopping down so it fit perfectly in the door. It was actually the hinges that needed to be attached, right? A lot of people throw money, time, and resource at fixing a solution, where actually the solution, if you look deeper, can be fixed by, in some cases, the self-worth. The people in charge in an organization, like as bluntly as that, right? Really nice of you to say as well, Kelly. I think being honest, open, and genuine is the way forward. For anyone that's potentially watching this now or in the future, about 12 months ago, it started, Kelly, and one of my coaches, I've been lucky enough to have a few peeps help me out. But one in particular, I sat down with this person and I said, in order for my business to be more successful, I need to be more appeasing to more people, and thus I need to be relatable. And this person helped me see that actually there was no need to do that, because the people who I want to work with, the people who I wanted as co-founders, the people who I wanted as clients, if they don't like me, that's okay. But I'll get more fulfillment out of doing it myself. Over the last 12 months, I've done everything from championing equality with women, sharing my experience as a white heterosexual male, the lack of difficulties because of my gender or skin color that I've had from a societal aspect. I've talked about miscarriage and a man's perspective on that. I have talked about tattoos. I've talked about drugs and alcohol, moving past addiction, and now 10 months and 3 days into sobriety. These are taboo subjects that you shouldn't talk about.
Don't talk about them.
This is not Facebook, right?
They're not professional.
Yeah, you can't do that. But do you know what it is like? What am I now? What am I now? I'm a reformed alcoholic that's happy, that's doing some good in the world, that's working with some awesome people, providing great service, and doing our bit to change the world for the lives of children and young adults. It's remarkable what you can do in 12 months.
Yeah, it's massive. I do want to say though that I've got parts of my past that I talk about openly, and I've got parts of my past that I don't talk about. And all of it makes me who I am, but I don't have to let everybody know everything. And when we start to talk about and advise people to talk about what's meaningful to them, miscarriage might be such a sensitive, and it's a sensitive topic for everybody, but it might be such a sensitive topic for them that they feel exposed, and like that sends their stress levels too high. And it's important to recognize that just because it happened doesn't mean you have to talk about it. You've got to pick and choose the bits of yourself that you're willing to share. Like, I talk about homelessness. I was homeless when I was 16. I ran away from home. I don't talk about all the drugs that were behind it. I don't talk about that. I talk about my ADHD. I don't talk about how my here is a new thing for you. I don't talk about how my impulsive ADHD brain thought it would be fine to run off with a man from the fair, and that's one of the things that instigated me running away from home. Like, I don't talk about that because actually there is shame and embarrassment and stuff that I haven't processed. So you've got to pick and choose what you talk about when you talk about it. So yeah, it's I just don't want people to think that they have to bear all to win business, because that's not true.
Correct. I love how there was a disclaimer on what I said, which is you don't have to do all of that stuff. Okay, it's like it's whatever you're cool with.
Yeah.
Um, it's it was quite a strange thing at points. Sometimes, for me, Kelly, it was purely a thing of if it helps one person,
Yeah.
if it helps one person go through whatever they're dealing with, to let them know that they're not alone,
Mm.
then that's worth it for me. And if people don't like it, cool. Like, that's fine. We ain't meant to be friends, right?
Yeah.
That's okay. Like, you get to a certain point, like, you got too many friends anyway. Like, you can barely make time to see them as it is and hold down relationships. I need less friends, not more. So
WhatsApp
that's
is still
cool.
blowing up, so
Yeah, I know. I'm like, and I'm trying. I'm like, like, what can I do to offend this person?
yeah,
Okay, cool, go away, right?
yeah.
But a really important part. Thank you for adding that disclaimer. I'd like to close this with one question, and it's a
Mm.
question that you answer as you see fit, in spirit of getting away with being yourself,
Yeah.
right? If you can think about point, one point in your past, one point in your life that has led you to be the person who you are now, the wonderful, caring, ADHD, creative, sporadic person that you are, what would it be?
My initial thought was running away from home, but I don't think it is. I think it's going back home. So after running away and living on sofas of strangers' houses in like heroin crack house kind of environment, it was the decision and the bravery to go back home and reconnect with my family that was the pivotal moment. Dealing with massive depression, like withdrawal, I guess, like a whole heap of stuff. The brave thing for me to do was to go home because I had a loving family. There is no denying that. So yeah, that's my pivotal moment of shaping me to be who I am.
You've been amazing. Um, Thank you. Thank you. It was always going to be an episode of highs and lows and ups and downs, and hopefully, hopefully, our audience here today and anyone watching on demand at a later date get as much as I did out of this. Selfishly, it's part of the reason why I do these things, right? I'm still learning, I'm still developing, I'm still growing, and it's a pleasure to be part of your journey in whatever interaction that means, Kelly.
Likewise, James, it's a pleasure talking to you. And let's meet up for that non-alcoholic beer sooner rather than later.
On that note, I am off to the south to go join Captain Kelly. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and have an amazing week ahead. Take care.